Welcome back to another draft review. My name is Dylan Alexander. Today we're going to be looking at the mid-season draft. It's right around the corner and we know it is the only time for AFL clubs in season to rejuvenate their lists. Thus, recruiters have dreamed up the Young Gun series in recent years, which is basically a development squad selected by recruiters. They pick all of the best players who have missed their draft year for whatever reason. Sometimes they developed a little bit later than others, or they came from different sports, that sort of things. Players who have made it to the AFL from the Young Gun series in recent years. We've got Sam Clohessy, Sam Durham, and also Harvey Gallagher, another one. I got down to both games and they were pretty free-flowing, high-scoring affairs, both of them, and that definitely suited some players, but I'm going to go through and give you just my standout performers who I think could potentially get drafted in this year's draft. Let's do it. Coming in at number 5, I have Geordie Payne, the 184 centimetre Tasmanian. In a previous life, this guy was a defender, but they've turned him into a forward, and this guy has a freakish ability to win contests inside forward 50, which we know is one of the most important things a player can possess. He's fantastic in the air as well as at ground level and super versatile, a difficult player to find a matchup for. In game 1, Payne played as a forward. He had 2 goals and 6 score involvements in that one. Here is a bit of his work right now. A really high percentage of Payne's score involvements come from the stoppage source, and that really tells us that he's so good at winning those contests inside forward 50. He's able to get separation on his opponent, something that's a little more easy to do on the turnover. So Payne really gives you those looks when, otherwise the defender has probably the upper hand over the forward. In game 2, I think due to the talent that the Young Gun squad is possessed with, he was pushed from the forward line into the half-back role where he played as a junior. He still managed to kick a goal and had 2 clearance score involvements. So once again, showing that ability to win contests, but didn't get as much of an opportunity to shine in this one. The issue for Payne is his ball use. He does tend to spray the ball around a little bit. I've seen him playing in the Coates League for Tasmania, and his set shot kicking leaves a little bit to be desired. And I think that's probably why he really never could be a true half-back player. He just doesn't have that ball use to open up the corridor. And it is a little bit, his kicking is a little bit uneasy on the eye at times. From a contest winning ability, I think he's absolutely elite, but I just want him to be handballing the ball. I think his home will be inside forward 50, but more as a stoppage player and someone that when the ball hits the ground level, he can create for others those better shots at goal. So still a top 5 performer in the Young Gun series and a big future for Payne. Coming in at number 4, Joe Pike from the Geelong Falcons. He's back also in the Coates Talent League this season. The 203 centimetre ruckman. He's a bit of a giant and a genuine improver when you talk to people around the Coates League. Last year, he's managed to shave 30 seconds off his time trial, so he's got himself a lot fitter. He came from a basketball background, so he's one that took to football a little bit later, and you can really see his progress developing quickly compared to some of the other players. Game 1, I was a little bit less impressed with Pike, to be honest. He played more of a pure ruck role and just shared it with Smith. That was sort of 50-50, and I noticed how good he was at the hit-outs and creating those clearance wins for them, but he didn't do a lot across the ground. I never really saw him getting back or pushing forward. In Game 2, as I understand, the coach was instructed to play him a little bit more forward. He also pushed back. He took one really nice intercept mark in that game. And when he was able to push forward, you really kind of saw his versatility and that, as we saw, that the movement that he has from that basketball background. He was able to get forward, get separation on his opponent with the 203 centimetre frame that he has. He's a really big guy. So he was able to sort of, isolate a one-on-one, and he's never really going to lose it from there. Kicked 3 goals in the second game and 3 score involvements from stoppage. Like I mentioned with Payne, that's so important to be able to create those opportunities from the stoppage source because it's a lot more difficult to be able to score from that source, just being that your defender has a closer reach on you, basically. And like I said, we talk about the mid-season draft being the opportunity to draft players for their talent, but also to fill a need straight away. And Joe Pike is one I think that could come in and really make an impact at AFL level straight away just because of some of the attributes that he has. Number 3 is the 190 centimetre midfielder. I'm sure you're listening already just from that. It's Ned McGuinness, brother of Finn McGuinness at Hawthorn. This guy is a really interesting player. Played mostly between on ball and half forward. Really long-limbed, sort of skinny. Looks like he needs to fill out a little bit. But he's, even for a skinny guy, he's weirdly good on the inside as well. He has these massively long limbs and they sort of seem to reach inside the contest and reef the ball out. As well as what you get there with the clearance work, you also get that player on the defensive side that's able to create more turnovers with those limbs. He sort of gets them in the way, a leg or a foot, and he's sort of cutting off little handballs and stuff like that. So you get a really good defensive player. Super impressed. I don't think he was the number one, as we go through the list, I don't think he was the number one midfielder in the games, but probably one that shows the best versatility as a midfielder and maybe has the most upside. Outside of the clearance, he has that ability to be able to push into the pockets. He finds a lot of space, similar to someone like a Taj Houghton, one of his teammates at the Sandringham Dragons, gets into the flanks post clearance and gets involved in the transition. So he was linking that midfield to attack all day. Game 1, definitely played in a more advanced role in Game 1, and 8 score involvements and a goal. Super impressive and really the full package from that sort of attacking midfield player. More of a half-forward linking role, as I said, and that thus his scores, all of those score involvements actually came from transition, finding space, hitting targets inside 50, and just connecting, as I said, connecting the midfield with attack, which is really important in modern footy. But then in Game 2, it was more of a pure midfield role. So he's a lot more centre bounce attendances, less of that pushing forward and linking role, and more of just a pure sort of inside midfield extractor. His scores here, the majority of scores came directly from clearance chains as opposed to turnover chains. So he wasn't sort of just getting the outside marks and getting into space, but he was actually being the one that either was a receiver or actually the extractor himself of ball from contest. So basically, across the 2 games, if you wanted to be able to see both the inside and the outside, McGuinness did pretty much perfectly to show you that. Number 2 on the list is Tobin Murray. He's one of my favourites from this crop of players and was probably, arguably the best over the 2 games. I think he's the most balanced midfielder. Good on both sides of his body. He's able to sort of get those in and under handballs out on the left and the right, release runners, that sort of thing. Game 1, definitely a pure midfield role. As I said, they sort of swapped positions around. They wanted to try different things and show the recruiters what the players could do. He was immense in that pure midfield role, 10 score involvements, 5 of which came from clearance. So 50% of his scores coming from clearance just shows how damaging he was. And I go back to Payne. Like I said, being able to score goals from clearance is a lot harder to do than it is from turnover. So shows the real ball winning ability of Tobin Murray. His ground ball work was fantastic. Clearance numbers really high. Sort of that, I got Caleb Sarong sort of vibes from Tobin Murray in the first one. Game 2, a little bit more understated, I would say. He played forward a lot, wasn't as natural, but he did find a way to kick 2 goals. So definitely someone that can push forward and hit the scoreboard, but certainly wasn't as impactful to me away from the stoppage. Number 1, and this guy was an absolute champion in both games. Complete versatility here from this guy. 180 centimetres, small forward, midfielder, whatever you like really. He's playing with Essendon at VFL level, so already playing against men. He's got a really strong build and that low centre of gravity. Just has that unique forward craft as well that not many players. I mentioned with Murray, more of a pure midfielder, but Smart really does have that sort of, if you think of one that came from the draft last year, like that sort of Nick Watson goal sense and just clean hands and being able to pick the ball up from low. He couldn't have had a better series. The versatility, the role versatility, absolute tick. Dominant performance across both games, probably got the maximum votes in both. Game 1, 8 score involvements, 2 goals. Just an exclusive forward, defensive pressure, locked the ball inside 50. They had all the territory in that game against Metro. A nightmare matchup with his speed, just speed of the mind as well to make the decisions as well. Both of his goals came really early from marks, which you wouldn't expect for a 180 centimetre forward. So he was really good above his head. Just turned opponents inside and out, found space. 6 of his score involvements were in transition and 2 from clearance. So a really nice mix there, but a nightmare when the transition comes and you've sort of lost him. You're never going to get him back. Game 2, now this is where it gets really good. So I thought I was watching a small forward. Got to Game 2, goes into the midfield. Tobin Murray's out, usurps him as the number 1 mid in there. Just won a stack of clearance, Clean hands, strength to break tackles, which you can see here in some of the shots. He had 9 score involvements from the midfield, so more than he actually had as a forward. Still kicked 2 goals, so he managed to push forward and hit the scoreboard as well. You know, someone like this, he's unlikely to be able to come into an AFL list and play as a pure midfield. He's not going to get like 60% centre bounces or something like that. So he's more likely to be able to be used as a forward, to be honest. So the fact that he can be that damaging as an inside 50 player is just absolutely massive. And yeah, he was clearly the best player for the Young Guns throughout this series. And the fact that he's playing VFL, playing against men, he's one that is really going to get looked at in this mid-season draft. Now, I want to mention a few other players while I'm here because there were some other great performances as well. Thomas Hanley, he had 14 score involvements across the 2 games. He's one that he doesn't catch your eye as much as some of the other ones and you don't notice him, but then when you go back over the tape and you see how much he's involved in the chains and tackles so hard and just works hard to get to so many contests. So one that's really, I think, underappreciated sometimes. Cade Delarue, a winger with speed, with great tackling pressure, and I could certainly see, he's another one at VFL level playing with the Kangaroos, so he's certainly one that, he looks like one of those modern day sort of wing, pushes back and creates tackles and spoils and gets the turnovers, and then gets you the other way coming back as well. Max Mapley, the other Tasmanian, he showed, for a 199 centimetre player, he showed some great forward craft at ground level. Got a few crumbing sort of goals as well for someone his side, as well as being a marking target. Thought he was great. And the other one was Riak Andrew as that intercepting defender. I think Cooper Trembath is the one that's been talked about quite a lot, and he had a fantastic series as well. But I think Riak Andrew really surprised me. He had probably more intercepts than Trembath did, and also was definitely more involved in the scores. So that's one of the main metrics that I look at. So all in all, a great series to go and watch. And the mid-season draft, it gets a little bit forgotten about sometimes, but it is really important, especially for clubs looking to get players that want to come in and play straight away, as opposed to the national draft. So looking forward to what happens there, and I'll try to bring out a video that maybe does a bit of a predictor of who's going to go with the picks when we get a better idea of what the AFL clubs actually want closer to the date. That's all I've got time for today. I'll get another vlog out this weekend for the Coates Talent League in lead up to the national draft, but other than that, I'll see you next time.